If you want to travel back in time, then the Maruti Suzuki Gypsy is the car for you. Why? Well, this car was launched way back in 1983 and has remained largely unchanged, except for a new grille. One of the biggest changes on the car was a new engine which was introduced in the mid-90s. But apart from that, this is really the same car since its launch in 1983. So, how is this icon to drive in today's day and age where cars are laden with technology and features? Let's find out and have some fun.
Well, so how is the Gypsy to drive? Now, the original Gypsy, remember, came with a 1-liter engine which made about 45 bhp of power, and the new one, which was launched in the mid-90s or the late 90s and was called the Gypsy King, came with a 1.3-liter engine with the carburetor, and that engine made about 65 bhp. Then Maruti introduced another Gypsy King with MPFI, which had 80 bhp, and this, of course, is the 80 bhp version. Now, the car I'm driving is officially about 8 years old, and it's done almost 80,000 kilometers on the meter over here. But it feels good fun to drive. There's a lot of torque available towards the upper end of its rev band, so you can really rev this engine. And this 1.3-liter engine really was known to be a rev-happy engine. It's the same engine which also worked on the Maruti Suzuki Esteem, and this is the same engine which also did duty on the new Swift when it was launched in 2005, and it was new at that time. So this is the same engine which did duty on 3 different cars in the Maruti range, and that's something which Maruti really has mastered now, having the same engine on multiple cars. So that's something which is of interesting fact, and that's the reason why you will see this car mostly with the armed and defense forces, as well as at a lot of places which use high terrain and high altitude driving, especially in Leh Ladakh and those kind of areas, because this is the car which really does take people out of a lot of sticky situations on 4x4 kind of places, and at off-roading events this really is the car. So if you want to drive this car, you'll have to be physically very fit. You'll need strong biceps and strong triceps, because there's no power steering. It's a huge steering wheel which does take a lot of effort to push and pull if you are, of course, moving away from junctions or turning in. And there is no AC, there is no standard AC. You'll of course have to get an AC fixed aftermarket, but that is not the only thing. The suspension setup is also very archaic and very old. It is leaf springs that this car runs on. So this car has that old Kamani system, which we used to say, a lot of people used to say, Kamani theek karani hai, Kamani tight karani hai. And if you are someone who was born in the 80s and 90s, then you will know, of course, that a lot of repair shops had those words written on their boards, Kamani, shocker, yahan par theek hota hai. So the original Gypsy was launched way back in 1983, and it was part of the 3 Maruti cars which were launched originally, the 800 hatchback, the Omni van, and of course the Gypsy SUV. And it is the only one out of all those 3 which is still in production. The Omni also is sold, but in commercial form now to smaller city dwellers. What you like about the Gypsy is the visibility. The forward visibility is absolutely brilliant. You get these very slender A-pillars which are very good to look around, so there's hardly any blind spot when you're looking ahead, and you also get decent mirrors in terms of their size, so you can get a good view of what's happening at the back. But rear visibility, because of all this cladding and all this upholstery, isn't the best. So if you are taking a sharp right turn and the mirror isn't visible to you, or you've been blocked, or there's some car near you, you have to be careful and look around like this, because as I just said, this upholstery over here, the rooftop, does eat up a lot of that visibility. So that's something that you need to be careful about. But apart from that, it's a really nice car. The brakes are a bit iffy. There's no ABS, there aren't any airbags, there's no EBD on this car. It's as pure and as back to basics as you can get with driving a car, and that's what the Gypsy really is all about. Well, 0 to 100 takes up as much time, as much courage that you need to muster up when you, of course, have your class 10 results out and you have to tell your mom about them. So it takes a really long time to do that, and it is pretty slow to reach 100, but it does reach 60 within acceptable time, and it's a car which is quite okay if you drive it within the acceptable speed limits. In terms of braking, the braking is pretty okay on this kind of a car. If you, of course, do panic braking, now remember there's no ABS, so this car will do a little bit of a zigzag, and you will, of course, have to maneuver the steering wheel on your own. And as I said, if you see a big badly patched up road up ahead, really it is the best for you to slow down and decide to do it quickly, because this car can simply thud over those badly patched up roads. Well, so is the Gypsy a car that I can recommend in a multiple car garage, or is it also a car which you can buy as a daily driver? To be honest, it's a car which is more for show, and it's a car which really is for the image rather than for serious driving on a day-to-day basis. Yes, it is a great car for off-roading, and if you are someone who does a lot of those off-roading events on a very regular basis, then this is probably one of the best, if not the best vehicle for those events and for those tracks. And as Maruti Suzuki Motorsports has shown us over the last few decades, the Gypsy still rules on those 4x4 surfaces and keeps winning all those events and rallies. And really, it was the king of off-roading in the 80s as well as the 90s, and it still is a great little number for those badly patched up roads. Now, we couldn't find any of those off-roading surfaces in Delhi, but we did manage to film this car on some gravel and some muddy tracks, and here's the footage to show you now. You can get a lot of Gypsies in the second-hand market, but some of them have been badly abused, so you've got to be careful with those cars, and you've got to buy the right car at the right price. Gypsies do normally go for about starting prices of 2 lakh rupees, and they go all the way up to about 4.5, 5 lakh rupees for about a 3-year-old model. So that is something that you need to be careful about. If you are someone who does decide to buy this car, then remember that running costs will be high, because the mileage of the Gypsy is about 9 or 10 kilometers best in the city without AC. And of course, if you do decide to get an aftermarket AC fitted on this car, then that mileage will drop even further. Well, so I have really enjoyed filming this car all day long today. Now, is it a car that I would recommend? It's a car which I will not recommend to anyone who drives mostly in the city. In fact, the owner of this car also drives very rarely on the beaten and off-road tracks, so he's also said that he doesn't really take his car out for off-roading duties. But if you are someone, of course, who purely drives on those 4x4 trails and does a lot of off-roading as well as a lot of those mud trails and stuff, then this is a car to go for. This is a great car.